Good morning, everybody. I am Gary Holeman. I am the Senior Automation Engineer for the Department of Transportation. One of the many endeavors that I've had during this career is we brought in digital signatures for the sealing of engineering and other professionals of record for plan sheets and the like. So, and I've been supporting those now, primarily. Jackie Carter and I have been doing that for about a year on our own. Prior to that, Diane Broadbent was also assisting us. And I get questions, and the questions I get tend to, if I start seeing a bunch of questions that are similar or related, then at that point I start thinking, I need to have some sort of a demonstration or a discussion or a presentation to go ahead and actually just, let everybody know the information that I'm sharing out individually. So, hence today's presentation, and thank you for the engineering application support team for providing me the time that I have to do this presentation. So thank you all for attending, and with that we will start. So, okay. Couple notes. First, this meeting is being recorded. I have turned your cameras off in the invite, but if for some reason you're able to turn your camera on, please don't. It can impact people and cause people to actually drop connections. So we try not to do that. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking. Please raise your hand to ask questions. I will try to keep an eye on it. Lenny is here to help me, so if somebody has a question and I don't catch it, I am sure she will let me know that I'm missing it. So don't worry about me missing you completely. Please feel free to enter questions into the chat. The recording will be posted later internally and externally. So, okay, first off, I'm going to go over some definitions. Those of you that attended the session back in January where I talked about some stuff about digital signatures, some of these slides are going to be familiar because I figured why recreate what I've already created? Let's just continue to use it. So we'll start with some definitions. PKI digital signature, it's basically a digital signature type that is based off of public-private key infrastructure. Electronic signature is a digital representation of a person. It can include, or it includes the use of a digital signature, but it's much broader. Basically, just signing your name is enough to count as an electronic signature. And a third-party certificate authority, that is somebody that provides a PKI certificate to somebody else. So it could be a vendor, could be an agency. You might need to spend money on it. The agency might spend money on it, but that's what that is. So, and signing options. For digitally signing, there's the third party, which, as I said, you request that from some certificate authority. There's self-signed. Don't do that for any professional or record signatures, please. I have seen that, an uptick in that, where people will send me a document and say, hey, there's something wrong with this certificate. And I'll say, yeah, it's self-signed. Tell them not to do that. And cloud or transactional signatures. Those tend not to work for the to meet OSBEELS requirements. because they don't have digital signatures assigned to each individual. They have a digital signature that's hidden in the document, so they tend not to meet the requirements. Let's see. Okay, so we'll get into some new sites now. So, something that has cropped up, people have questions. They receive a digitally signed document and they go, oh, what do I do now? And somebody says, well, you have to make sure that it's good. Is it a good signature? Is it a, and what does that mean? And really, we got three parts of the digital signatures that we need to be aware of. First one is what I'm going to call trust. Second one is going to be validation, and the last one is going to be appearance. And we'll touch on those three items here moving forward. So for trust, what is trust? Trust, when you're talking digital signatures, can be linked down to what's called a root certificate. If you have a Komodo certificate or you have one of the old digit certificates, a lot of those certificates have a root certificate that has actually been shared out to those folks that have certificate libraries. And so when you receive a document with one of those signatures on it, it says, hey, this person is who they say they are. That really is down to the next bullet, which is what is trust? Well, it's really establishing that the signer is the person who signed the document. And you go, well, why do we need that? Well, if you create a self-signed signature and you claim you're Beyonce, nobody can actually tell that you're not Beyonce, but on the other hand, everybody else can claim they're Beyonce too. So it could be, it kind of, if you're using a third party, if you're using a self-signed certificate, there's no guarantees that you are who you say you are, or there's no guarantee that the document that you're looking at that says you signed it was not signed by you. If you actually had that, a self-signed signature that looked exactly like that, there's no way to tell if you signed it or not. So trust is established automatically for many certificates. If the certificate is already in the certificate libraries, trust is established. But trust is not established for all certificates. An example of that is ODOT. ODOT certificates, they're internal, they're actually created internally. There is no shared root that we've shared out, so nobody has our root. It's definitely not automatically included with Windows or Adobe. And so if somebody receives one of our documents and you've signed it and they go, hey, how can I trust that this is you? Just tell them that because you're nice and they can trust you. That gets us down to the next bullet, which is trust can be established manually. If you want to, and you receive a document and you go, oh, yes, I know Bob. I always want to trust his signatures. I can go into that signature and I can add it to my list of trusted certificates, and it will always trust that certificate. Okay. Trust doesn't have to, you don't have to establish that trust, so you can just acknowledge that it's trusted. So if you know who Bob is and Bob was going to be sending you something that was digitally signed, you expected it, it looks like Bob signed it, you can just say, yep, this is good, I trust it. Even if the document says, hey, this has trust issues, you can go ahead and say, nope, I know that it came from Bob, it's good. Okay, and trust is a big thing, so we get 2 slides on this one. So, third party with the included root. Once again, the root can be included in your certificate libraries. Windows has a certificate library. Adobe has a certificate library. I am sure that there are other applications out there that have their own certificate libraries. I'm not aware of them, but I know they're out there. I just feel it. Third party, like ODOT, doesn't include a root. Could we provide a root? Yes. I have talked with folks about providing our root. At some point, we may do so. That would require the other party to download it and place it where every machine that needs to validate the certificates or the signatures can have access to it. So self-signed. Self-signed will never have trust because a self-signed is a self-signed signature and there's no validation of a person's identity. So anybody that signs with a self-signed certificate needs to understand there's always going to be a trust issue with that certificate, and you just have to agree that the signer is who you expected it to be. I have actually seen somebody who themselves had a self-signed certificate have a document re-signed multiple times because the other people weren't trusted. So it happens. Okay. Validation. So when you're actually validating the signature, for us, particularly when we're looking at the seals for the professionals of record, we want to know, is it a third-party signature? And that's because, excuse me, OSBEELS and other boards require a third-party signature, but it's also determining, is the signer actually the signer? So it might have John's PE stamp and it might have Bob's digital signature on it, and that won't be any good. We don't want that. So we have to validate, you know, did John actually sign John's seal? So what else do we need to worry about? Well, we have to worry about, has the file changed? It used to be, back when we originally started using digital signatures in ODOT, that once it was signed, basically no changes were allowed to that file. And that's changed. So if you're using Adobe products or using Bluebeam and you're going ahead and looking at a file, you may actually come up with a message that says, oh, that signature has, that document has changed, but it's a minor change. And it'll just give you a little yellow warning mark, but it's not going to invalidate the signature because for some reason the software has said, oh, it's just a minor change. If you lock the file, that does prevent changes, and we'll talk more about that later. So how do you tell if a file's been changed? Well, the signature, if you're actually going in to validate it, will actually tell you. So, and then as far as what else the messages tell you, they'll tell you if it's a self-signed signature, you'll be able to see that right away. They'll tell you if the certificate's expired, which as long as it was valid at the time that it was placed, it's good. What else? I can't think of what else I was going to say on that one, so we'll move on. So now we're going to jump down into appearance, because appearance is kind of important. People have been confused about this. So let's talk first about what a PKI digital signature actually is. So essentially, a PKI digital signature is a string of code that takes specific bits out of the file attributes and strings them together in a specific fashion that creates a unique identifier for the document at the time it was signed. So is that what you see when you apply your digital signature? No, what you see is called an appearance. Okay. The appearance is literally just that. What do I see when I apply my signature? I did have a individual who was concerned that they felt like they needed to have multiple certificates because they needed to have multiple different appearances. I did reassure them that multiple appearances can be created and applied to a single certificate. You only need one certificate for signing. You don't need to have multiples. I can't think of any reason that you would need to have multiples. Unless you work for multiple agencies or multiple companies and each one wants to provide you a different certificate to sign with. But you don't really need that. So,
Can you take a question?
yes.
Just a for instance, if I had the need to initial something and then elsewhere fully sign it, I think what I heard you say is I can use the same certificate with two different appearances.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So actually you can have unlimited appearances for that certificate. There are 3 certificates that I could see people using regularly. For engineering or surveying, you'd be using digitally signed. You could be signing as yourself, which means you'd be signing with the way you want your name to appear. And you could be signing just as you were just talking about with initials. I wouldn't worry too much about making script or photocopying in your physical signature.
Okay, and let me just correct a word that I heard. I heard you say certificate, but what you meant is you could have those 3 different appearances. Digitally signed, correct. Your full name, initials. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Hey, you're welcome. Thank you. Okay. So the appearance on the document. First questions that if we're validating a signature internally is we're going to say, well, does it meet ODOT's requirements? And then underneath that, we have the governing boards. So I was talking about OSBEELS. They require it to say digitally signed. ODOT adds to that and say, hey, we want it to also show the date and time. Okay. And it's fairly easy to create an appearance that basically shows some words and then the date and time. So governing boards that I know impact or have impacted ODOT in the past, OSBEELS for the engineers and land surveyors, OSLab for the landscape architects, OSBIGI for the geologists and geotechnicals, and OSBEE for the architects. So all of those people have their own rules. I know the architects were in the process of rewriting theirs. I gave them some language that I'd seen used by the OSBEELS, OSLab, and OSBIGI, so they could tighten it up a little bit. So. Oh, and I forgot to place 2 pictures. Bad me, sorry. I just finished this up an hour ago. So let's go ahead and we will just cheat. We'll make it a live demonstration. So if I'm in, let's see, creating appearance, yep. So if I'm in Adobe, I can come down, I select preference, I select signatures. On signatures, there's creation appearance up top. I click more. I can come in and create a new appearance. we tend to use imported graphics. Basically, it's best if you find a location that you can actually place it. I've got out here underneath my pictures, I've got signatures. I can come in and create a new appearance. We're going to take off the second name. We're going to take off the logo. We're going to take off the labels. I hate free advertising for other people. So, I mean, if you want, you can advertise for Adobe and Bluebeam and the others, but I prefer not to unless they're going to pay me to do so. But that's all it takes to create a new appearance. And Adobe. And we're doing good on time. So sorry, I'm dragging everything over here except what I wanted to. Okay, so in this, you basically go down to signatures, digital IDs. You select your ID that you want, and you click Manage Appearances, and you hit the plus, and you create your appearance. It's kind of the same. Once we get to that point, it's really the same as what Adobe has you go walk through as well. But everybody likes showing their logo to advertise, so. Okay. So next topic or next subtopic. My certificate has expired. Now what? I actually have not gotten this question yet, but I'm sure somebody has it, which is, why does my certificate expire? There's two reasons, really. All digital certificates used for digital signatures expire because it's a security requirement that they do. And certificates typically expire either twice a year up to every 2 years, depending on who's providing the certificate and what they've set that expiration to. Okay. Most of the commercial third-party certificate authorities are selling 1-year certificates. And internally, we've got our hardware set to produce 1-year certificates. So, but bottom line is, particularly when you're talking about those third-party certificate authorities, somebody wants to get paid. So if you've paid your fee or you're under an agency or corporate digital certificate system, your certificate's expired, look for your new certificate. You should already have one. If you don't, contact whoever supports it. If you got it from a third-party certificate authority, you probably, and you paid your fee, you probably have an email someplace waiting for you to pull your new certificate. All right.
So there's a question.
Okay.
What happens when your certificate dates overlap?
Nothing. So it means that both of those certificates are good during that overlap. That's all. So I see Zach has his hand up.
Yeah, Gary, I have several appearances in a previous certificate. Can I copy those over to new ones, or do I have to make new ones every year?
Okay. And I was going to cover that. I think it's like next slide. No, it's actually this slide. So with Adobe, the appearances that you create are usable with any certificate in your certificate store to create any digital signature. With Bluebeam, or I'm going to say Bluebeam Review because the product's really Review. It's kind of like calling all trucks Fords. But with Revu, Bluebeam, it ties the appearance to individual certificates. I am not aware of any way to copy them over, but if you've got that little storage spot that you're storing how you want digitally signed to look, and you're storing how you want your name to look, and you're storing how you want your initials to look, it's fairly easy to go in there and recreate the appearance for a different certificate, whether it's a new certificate because the old one expired, or if it's a different certificate because you've got multiple certificates for one reason or another. So here's another one where I put in to show an example. So just so you know, with Revu, we've noticed that Revu will continue to show you your expired certificates. It just won't let you sign with them. So if you're trying to, you got into Bluebeam, you're placing a digital signature, and Revu is not letting you place that signature, read the messages, but most likely what it's telling you is that certificate is expired, and go look in your list of certificates and use the new one. So, and I'm not sure if there are I know there are other products out there that allow you to digitally sign PDFs. I don't know if they follow Adobe's practice or if they follow Bluebeam's practice as far as the certificates and how they manage it. If you're inside of Adobe, it does not show you the expired certificates, even though they're still there. It just shows you the current ones. Okay, so something that I wanted to point out is to make sure that you have a timely request for a certificate, whether it's your certificate or you have a new coworker that's come in and they're going to be working, but they're a professional record, so they're going to be sealing as well. Make sure that whatever process they need to do to get a certificate, they've gone through. It just reduces their stress immensely if you go ahead and let them know ahead of time what they're going to have to do. Commercially available third-party certificates. If I'm going to order a certificate from Komodo, it could take a week to go ahead and get that certificate once you've sent them all the information they want. Okay, so make sure you give yourself time to get that certificate before you have to use it. For ODOT, just so you know, I think our guaranteed turnaround is like 3 days with the digital signature support. And then IT has 3 days to actually go ahead and add you to the right group. So you could, if you need a certificate today and you ask for it, it still may take 6 days for you to get that certificate. We have meetings. We, aren't here all the time sitting at our desks. So, yeah. So just make sure that you request those certificates in a timely manner, please. So for externals, we have a guidance document, and I will show where you can find links to that here shortly. But we have a guidance document. It is accurate at the time that it was created. I think I last updated it sometime in 2024. Okay. It is a partial document. It states that it's a partial document. Do not say, hey, these are the only people that ODOT approves of. It's not. Pretty much any third-party certificate that produces PKI certificates should be fine. Expectations. We want to meet the board requirements. ODOT, as I said earlier, adds the date field to the appearance. Now, I have some cautions, and these are less for ODOT folks, but this is more for the externals. Cloud solutions tend to be transactional based. As I stated earlier, they tend not to give the individuals a certificate. They tend to have a hidden signature that they place in the document once all the electronic signatures are placed. I have gone and asked the OSBEELS about this, and OSBEELS' opinion is that the transactional service where it's just placing a hidden digital signature does not meet their requirements. Other thing I'm going to point out is don't overspend. I had somebody call me and say, I can't afford to get a digital signature. They want $23,000. And I go, they want what? I have no idea what they were what this person was trying to buy or what the company that he was talking to was trying to sell. Typically, I'd be looking at about $100, give or take. Might be $150 nowadays. Everything costs more for a year's certificate. If somebody wants more than that, you have to ask yourself if that's really what you want. So, some changes that we've noted in Adobe Acrobat. These are fairly new. Caused all sorts of consternation internally. It used to be that, and this might be surprising to some, it used to be that if you were going to have multiple signatures on a document, that you had to place all of the signature fields before you started signing the document. Adobe, and I haven't checked to see if this is true in Bluebeam or not, but Adobe at least allows you to place digital signatures in a document as even if other people have already signed it, as long as the document hasn't been locked. So if it's an unlocked document, you can now add as many signatures as you want. So if you have multiple signature fields in the document, let's just for an example, let's say there's 4 signature fields. When the 4th person signs the document, on their signature page, there will appear to be a toggle asking if you want to lock the file. I recommend saying yes, I want to lock the file, and clicking that toggle. That actually will lock it with that last signature. If you don't have multiple signature fields, if people are just randomly signing it, every signer will see that option to lock the file. If you don't have multiple signature fields and you know that somebody's signing it after you, please don't toggle that. So I saw a question pop up, I think.
There was a question about acquiring a slide, and I went ahead and just posted the info about how to access the recording after the session.
Okay, thank you. Okay, dynamic forms. My favorite. So AEM, InDesign, there's a couple other Adobe products that actually create dynamic forms. A dynamic form has a PDF extension on the file, but it's not a true PDF. It's more of an XFA file with a PDF wrapper. The issue with these is that, one, they're proprietary, so they're in Adobe format. 2, not every PDF software that can view or even edit actually can see these correctly. So we strongly advise that we sign dynamic PDFs only with Adobe products. I will go so far as to say that internally we have seen corruptions in files that were caused by signing with Revu that caused the file to have to be recreated. So once again, we strongly advise that with dynamic PDF forms, we only sign with Adobe. Okay. So, got some more information here. We have an internal SharePoint site that is available to everybody inside of our wide area network. Basically, it talks about digital signatures, has a user guide over here, has a digitally signed image that people can download and use for their appearance, has some training options, lists the OARs. Okay. So that's one link. Externally facing. Come on. Oh, that's not hot. Okay. I broke my link. Sorry. I can't show it to you. Oh, I can show it. All right, give me a
Also
second.
in the chat a couple of times.
Oh, it's in the chat? Cool.
Anytime you see the words digital signatures in the chat, that's an active link.
Okay. Oh, yes.
You picked the link to the vendors list.
I know. And I tried to launch it, and I tried to launch other ones, and now all of a sudden I've got 7 pages opened up in Edge. So, but I'll just close that. So, ATA.
From here, you need to select engineering technology, the actual task box.
Yep.
Then you will find digital signatures in the list in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to remember where I put it. It's been a few years.
You and I will be talking about that after this.
I'm sure it will. So, and once again, this digital certificate authorities vendors partial list is just to show you examples. It's not, don't say if it's not on the list you can't use it. It's just examples. Okay. So, okay, so that's that. Okay, and for Jackie, I added in the OSBEELS link. It's just remind yourself if you're operating under OSBEELS, it's good to remind yourself they've actually improved the discussion on digital signatures recently. So I encourage you to go out and that one's still active. Good. I wonder how I broke the other one. So they have a lot of discussion and they do talk about digital seals and signatures for electronic final documents. Okay, so we have 16 minutes. I got through it a bit faster than I expected. Questions?
Hi, Gary. At one point in time, I was finding that if I had a document, a PDF file that I was stamping and signing digitally on the network, I was sometimes successful with it, but sometimes not, and found that copying that to my hard drive and then doing the digital signature was more consistently successful. Have you heard that or had of any new experiences with that?
It is, I have heard of it. It's primarily due to poor network connectivity. And it seems to be happening more now again than it was for a while. But it's always good practice when you're digitally signing stuff to actually have the copy that you're signing local. Well, if there is no other questions for me, thank you for coming.
Thanks, Gary.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.